fight against poverty requires that we approach social exclusion using different tools that combat the vicious cycles that perpetuate poverty from one generation to the next. And that includes access to good nutrition, access to schools that should be much more inclusive, access to employment, access to adequate housing. And what's important is to realize that if we don't address all these issues, poverty will be perpetuated. For example, if children are in overcrowded dwellings, they will not be able to study under good conditions, they will perform poorly at school, they will drop out early from school, and they will be in poverty as adults. Or if children do not have access to good nutrition, again, their ability to perform academically well will be diminished, and they will be at risk of poverty in their adult lives. So we have to focus on all these areas if we want to make a real difference. And it's important beyond those material conditions in which households live, that we also look at the more subjective dimensions of poverty. When we ask people in poverty about their experience of poverty, they speak not only about material conditions, lack of income, lack of decent jobs, they also speak about discrimination, institutional violence, the humiliations that they face. And so we also must make an effort to ensure that we address that dimension of poverty, because otherwise people will lose confidence, they will lose trust in their ability to overcome disadvantage, and that is a major obstacle to removing poverty. In affluent societies, paradoxically, the picture of poverty is one that is extremely problematic because people in poverty are considered to be responsible for their condition. They are basically blamed for being poor. The general idea is that if most people in society manage to have access to employment, housing, nutrition, healthcare, then people in poverty should blame themselves for their inability to match the rest of the population. So this meritocratic view of society, this view of society as one that rewards individuals for the talent and the effort that they put into overcoming disadvantage, is one that ends up shifting the burden on people in poverty for their condition. And that, I think, is unacceptable. Poverty is not the result of individual choices or mistakes. Poverty is a result of a society that is not sufficiently inclusive, that does not recognize the obstacles that people face due to the circumstances for which they are not responsible. Poverty is the result of our inability to recognize the experience, the knowledge of people who have been facing disadvantage. And I think we must build a society that is much more inclusive, that is much more grateful for diversity, and that recognizes the contributions that people in poverty can make to society. It is really vital that organizations working against poverty in Europe meet to exchange their experiences and good practices, and it is vital for two reasons. First, because it is important to counterbalance the fact that mostly people in poverty are disempowered, excluded from political decision making, not listened to by policymakers, even when anti-poverty strategies are being designed. So it's a way to empower those organizations so that they can have a voice in how decisions are made that affect people in poverty. And secondly, it is important that policymakers are there and listen. Very often technocrats believe they have the solutions. They believe they understand the issues by consulting with academic experts. But the experiential knowledge of people in poverty who are on the front line of the fight against poverty and who know exactly what are the obstacles they face, that experience is extremely precious. Indeed, it is irreplaceable if we want anti-poverty strategies to succeed. So we need to have a decision-making process that is much more influenced and informed by the views of people in poverty. Otherwise, we will fail, we will be ineffective, and we will miss the very important opportunities that people in poverty can provide if simply we were listening to them more frequently. The participation of people in poverty in decision-making is important and complementary to the knowledge that the academic experts and technocrats have, and to the knowledge that organizations have who work with people in poverty. The direct, immediate knowledge of people in poverty about their condition, their expertise about what it means to be in poverty, is absolutely vital, so that we focus our efforts on the obstacles that they face, and so that political imagination is broadened. Very often people in poverty know exactly what can support them best, what are the obstacles that they face, and how these obstacles can be overcome. And we would save lots of time and energy. We would be much more effective if only we listen to them.